SME Street viewers, and a very warm welcome to all the SME Street viewers on social media, on YouTube, on Facebook, and on Twitter. It's our pleasure to be, with you. It is our pleasure to be, MSME, SME focused media platform for the Indian SME sector. And there are a couple of reasons for such kind of excitement for us. Obviously, the sector is phenomenally important and vibrant and potential rich. But at the same time, we are at a very critical and crucial stage when a lot of expectations need proper attention. So when we say this, this SME sector holds a lot of potential, but it also requires a lot of push on various directions. It is a very crucial time as well from the perspective of of the time when we have the union budget, the upcoming union budget for 2019, just a couple of days ahead of us, and this is like just we are almost a 1 month old new MSME ministry and the leadership that the MSME sector has in terms of the MSME ministry holds a lot of expectations and a lot of credibility. If we look at for example, if we look at MSME minister Mr. Nitin Gadkari's previous 4 years as a road and transport minister. With regards to the finance, the Union Finance Ministry's upcoming budget, this is the first budget for Mrs. Nirmala Sitharaman, and we expect a lot of action on the MSME sector at this moment. So, with regards to the expectations that this sector has from the finance ministry for the upcoming union budget, there are a couple of important elements for such demands, and there are few expectations which we as an industry people expect, basis on the kind of interactions that we are doing, and for last more than 1 month. Last more than, you can say, a fortnight, we are getting humongous amount of responses in the form of emails, SMS, WhatsApp messages, sometimes even phone calls, where the MSMEs, the entrepreneurs, are approaching us and expressing their demands, opinions, their recommendations. What do they actually need from Mrs. Sitharaman for this particular budget? Obviously, this will be the start of the India's economic revival 2.0. So, with Prime Minister Modi's, the re-elected mandate and the huge mandate that he has got, this is the document, the Union Budget 2019. Going to be announced on July 5th, is going to be something which holds a lot of prominence. So as a media platform for the MSME, we have listed out few points, and we are open for your suggestions in terms of how if we have missed out any any aspect or any any critical demand or opinion from this budget. We will be very happy if you write to us on fairs@SMEStreet.in, or maybe you can comment here on any of our social media handle. The first expectation is obviously related to GST. GST getting considered as one of the most landmark decision of Indian economy. This is like an historic moment, an historic decision taken a couple of years ago. When the rollout of GST was being announced from July 1st. In fact, this is like just a couple of years ago. Um, with that, we this particular union budget, we expect that there should be some announcement. There will be some announcement with regards to the the coverage of GST, and there will be some sort of focus towards reducing the kind of GST rates. Obviously, from the MSME perspective, there are several areas which requires a lot of hand holding and support, which which with the MSMEs are expecting. One example, for the financial inclusion aspect, the in the fintech domain, the GST, there is a demand that GST rates needs to be reduced when it comes to the remittance. So that aspect can be taken care by the finance ministry, and we hope to do to see some action in that direction. Secondly, MSME finance is an area where there are humongous amount of work required. So when you talk about MSMEs, it is about finance that can actually push their growth, push their expansion, or upgrade their basic infrastructure. And the positive part, and why this expectation is at a top level priority of MSME sector, is because MSME Minister Mr. Nitin Gadkari, Finance Minister Mrs. Nirmala Sitharaman, and even Prime Minister Modi have clearly indicated that the MSME sector holds a lot of prominence for the economy and the economic revival of this country. And Mr. Gadkari have mentioned that the entire credit system has to be more and more MSME focused, and MSMEs needs to be kept at the top level hierarchy of MSME finance. So we expect some major announcements in this budget on the MSME finance domain. And in addition to that, the third element is obviously the insurance part. So when we actually talk about insurance, it is still a very, very wide open area. So when we talk about insurance, the most effective way to reach out and expand the coverage of insurance is through the MSME, because MSME workforce, if you actually go by the data, MSME workforce hold more than 72% of India's working population. So that number in itself is a huge number when we are actually looking at a country of such size. So 72%, close to about 72% of working population in the country are working with the MSMEs. And so we expect some of the major reforms in this domain, in the insurance domain. Fourthly, the digital payment outreach. The digital payment outreach is going to be, the government's focus. We have seen reports, we have seen ministers, and the cabinet secretaries talking about this aspect. So we are expecting some strategic push and strategic incentivizing towards the digital payment in the so this is going to be beyond the top 10 cities of the country. So this budget should have some announcements in that direction. And lastly, the point with which I need to conclude this particular conversation is the job creation. So job creation is something which has made Prime Minister Modi concerned, especially when he was concluding his tenure, the initial tenure, and just after getting re-elected with such mandate, Prime Minister Modi have mentioned this, that job creation will again going to be the main priority for the leadership. And as an MSME media platform, I have and we have always mentioned that the goals of job creation can only be achieved with the role and with with the help of the MSMEs. So we expect some of the major announcements in that direction as well with regards to MSMEs. And so we are just few days before this kind of major policy document, and we are looking forward for a budget um, which will have this great transformation happening, which will have which will be leaving MSMEs happy, which will be leaving the economy, the basic architecture of economy, which are SMEs and the MSMEs, happy. And I hope with that outlook, the policymakers are thinking with that outlook, the draft of this document, the Union Budget 2019, is getting prepared. And we expect, and we are definitely there to to contribute in the economic growth story of India, for and setting example which the whole world will see. Thank you very much from SME Street, and please log on to SMEStreet.in and be part of our social media communities as well. Thank you so much.